Huffman's 2-week sentence sparking some outrage on social media, with many arguing the actress got off easy for such a brazen crime. But the judge in the case telling Felicity Huffman, quote, "You can move forward and rebuild your life after this. Without this sentence, I think the community around you would ask why you got away with this." Let's bring in our panel. Vinoo is a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Natalie Alicia Gold is a business law attorney and founder of Alicia Law PLLC. Good to have you both. So, Natalie, I'll start with you. Do you think the judge handed down the right sentence in the Felicity Huffman case?
If it were up to me and I was the judge, I would say there would be no time behind bars whatsoever. However, the 14 days is symbolic more so than anything. It's to show that you cannot get away with these actions without really serving the time. And I think it's a message loud and clear to other parents who are thinking or ever thought about doing such a thing that this is completely not allowed. But here's the deal. This poor woman's life has been ruined for a mistake. Yes, a mistake. She didn't rape, she didn't kill. So I don't know if this is warranted, but social media has spoken.
Vinoo?
Well, the operation that the government called it varsity blues, but it's the government that today is feeling the blues. They had touted this as this big, massive case where people are going to spend decades in prison. She got 14 days. This is a huge loss for the United States Attorney's Office, but in the Boston, that office. They were talking years and years. She got 14 days. I actually disagree. This really doesn't say anything. I mean, she's going to get away with it. She's an actress. Her career, she can go back to Hollywood. Marky Mark is Mark Wahlberg, has felony convictions, and he's an A-list Hollywood star.
But wait, there's more in this. You've got, when you compare the way Felicity Huffman, handled the court appearance, her punishment, her letter to the judge, with Lori Loughlin and her husband, Massimo Giannulli, who could face at least 18 months in prison, because I know the crime could provide them with 40 years, but I'm watching an analyst, and they're saying they could at least be in prison for 18 months, if not more. So how do you think their case will play out, Vinoo?
Well, their case is a little different, and here's the problem with the government's case against Lori Loughlin. If you actually read the indictment, the most Lori Loughlin is said to have done is be CC'd on emails between her husband and Singer, the guy who orchestrated all of this. She's a CC, and at the end there's a phone call, which the government recorded, where he starts saying something about, oh, it's done, and she goes, uh-huh. That's
so
the extent of the government
she is not going to go to jail, but her husband will?
I'm not saying her husband is necessarily going to go to jail. What I'm saying is they actually need separate lawyers. They're being represented by the same person. She should get her own lawyer because he faces more real time than she does.
And I think, though, that this, if I was Lori Loughlin right now, I'd be shaking my Louboutins, because if Felicity Huffman came clean, said to the judge, I'm sorry,
right,
I made a mistake, and Lori pled not guilty, I think it's going to be a really big issue because of the court of public opinion.
Now, I want to stay with you for a second, Natalie, and as reported in the New York Times, referring to another case, in arguing that the parents in this case should go to prison, prosecutors had pointed to examples of defendants like Kelly Williams Ballar, an African-American single mother in Akron, Ohio, who was sentenced to 5 years in prison, a sentence later suspended to 10 days in jail, 3 years of probation and community service for using her father's address to get her children into a nearby suburban school district. So what do you make of the prosecutor's comparison?
You know, it's a strong comparison. However, I think that in both instances, this is a, as I sit here very pregnant myself with a 1-year-old daughter at home, this is about a mom in both situations who tried to do the best for their kid. I think that the law and the underlying thing here is that the education system is so flawed. We're going after mothers for trying to do better for their kids. What about the people who are killing? What about the opioid epidemic? What's going on in this country?
Vinoo.
I think when you look at those cases, that's a bad example, because that sentence in that Ohio case was outrageous for what happened. So to compare them, and this isn't outrageous, this is really a civil issue. It's really these parents basically defrauding the college and the federal government stepping in and trying to criminalize what's really a fraud issue between them and the college. The college should be suing them, but now the U.S. government, using your taxpayer dollar in mind, is now making this a big case case, and now they got a big black eye yesterday because they got hardly any jail for one of their 2 signature defendants.
I got to leave it there. Vinoo Varghese and Natalie Alicia Gold. Alicia, right?
Alicia.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.